But today's video is about the exact process I use to achieve a 100 kilo snatch, that's 225 pounds, after about failing 30 times. I'll be sharing the top 3 things I needed to learn before finally breaking through this plateau. And as Seeker Strength puts it in his own video on the same topic, a 100 kilo snatch for men, body weight for women, this is a pretty significant benchmark in your weightlifting journey. So here are the top 3 things you need to know to hit your first 100 kilo snatch, body weight for women, or break through any plateau. I'll be going over 2 movement primers that help me to focus on the right cues. Remember that attention is your most valuable resource. On the performance side, how to embody the identity you are aspiring towards, and how to do this without feeling fake. The third thing is to embrace the process, to learn what that really means, and it's not always what you think. So here are the 2 warm-ups that helped me to achieve 100 kilos, and I continue to use them frequently about once a week until I reached about 125 kg or so. So the first one is the muscle snatch, and you want to be doing this in a way that lets you get comfortable keeping your arms active and close as you enter the drive phase. When you do the muscle snatch, the most important thing is to continue to pull while you drive into the ground until your upper arms are parallel with the ground. What will often happen instead is that you'll reverse curl it, bumping it forward with your hips. There are a lot of ways that this can go wrong, but a small golden window in which you know things are exactly where they need to be. This is Hardeep, who has a couple of years of weightlifting experience, and he sent me this video the other day of his muscle snatch. The very first thing I noticed was that his elbows didn't rise high enough, and they turned over in front of his body. What we've worked on since then is to apply these same cues, and he's since reported that things feel much better and smoother and that the bar is going into the right place. You can do this muscle snatch as a movement primer on any snatch day up until about 40-50%, then immediately go on to the next phase, which is the dip snatch. Since you've just primed the upper body, you're in great position to integrate this into a closer movement to the full snatch. This takes the concept just a bit further, adding in a leg drive followed by a rapid turnover and a low catch. Here's a video of Hardeep that's demonstrating the dip snatch. He's doing a really great job being very active with his upper body during the turnover. The key things you want to keep in mind is to stay tall as you dip, like you would in a jerk. This is an artificial position, but still very useful to train the body to behave the way we need it to when we finally return to the full movement at full speed. Do this about 60-70%, and then you can continue working sets, which typically starts around 70%. The second point I want to talk to you about is the importance of stepping into the identity that you aspire towards. This one is quite simple, but can sometimes feel harder to do, especially as you get older and have more things that feel stressful in your lives. So the first question to ask is, why do you want to snatch 100 kilos? Let's face it, most people don't necessarily want to snatch 100 kilos or body weight for women for its own sake. You want what achieving that means. It may be a certain physique, a certain confidence in your abilities, differentiation from others. It could also be just an objective symbol that represents the sum total of your hard work, commitment, and abilities. So just think about what snatching 100 kilos would mean to you and write that down and start bringing more of that into the here and now. If you believe that snatching 100 kilos will give you more confidence, inject that confidence deliberately into your life today. Of course, that's easier said than done, and the leading cause of affirmations failing is because somewhere in the back of your mind, it can kind of feel like BS. My suggestion here is just simply to approach it with a spirit of curiosity. After you've identified what it is that you really want out of this achievement, ask yourself another simple question. What would life be like in a world where I had that kind of confidence today? Now, start by planting that seed and continue to feed that curiosity. And the more you do it, the stronger it'll grow, and the more you will become the very thing you need to in order to achieve the reality you desire. In practice, this is an example of how this might look like. About 2.5 weeks or so before I aim to hit my peak, I would simply spend a minute or two just imagining what it would feel like to hit that number. I'll visualize the bar, what it looks like, how it feels in my hands, what am I wearing, how did it feel when I approached the bar, how did it feel during the lift, how did it feel after. Studies have clearly demonstrated the link between the mind and the body, where just thinking about a movement can make you stronger. The brain can't tell the difference between you visualizing an event and your body actually doing it. The biggest thing here is just start with a curiosity. What would life be like if you snatched 100 kilos, snatched body weight for women? What would life look like then? Everyone has a superpower, in my opinion. Believe it or not, it starts with your own curiosity. If you're attracted to a sport like Olympic weightlifting, there's a good chance that you appreciate complexity and also set high expectations for yourself. The downside of these great qualities is that you can be really hard on yourself when you fail. And during this time, I was terrified of being labeled as a beginner. I wanted that 100 kilo mark so bad that I could just say that I was no longer a beginner. I very much wanted to do away with the feeling of incompetence and feel confidence again. As I closed in on this mark, I noticed myself being hyper-conscious of what I was trying to achieve. It had nothing to do with me anymore. It had everything to do with how I perceived others. But the strangest part was that nobody actually came up to me and said the words, "You're a punk until you snatch 100 kilos. And if they did, I'm positive that I would have achieved it sooner, because that motivation can actually be internal. But what I was doing instead was creating these voices that were completely external to me, and by extension, I was increasingly getting disconnected with my own reasons to pursue this goal. So the insight that started to change things for me, I was on the brink of giving up. I must have been on failure number like 30 or something like that, and I had tweaked my knee and low back, and I was supposed to go back home to finish a presentation later that evening. So as I left the gym that day, I realized, wait, why am I holding myself to this expectation of being an expert when the truth is I haven't yet had the opportunity or time to actually be an expert? So the one thing that I needed to accept was the simple truth. I was still learning, and that was completely okay. This was a significant realization, and in many ways I feel like this was the very first day of getting on the path of self-mastery with weightlifting as its vessel. And the best part was, in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. So don't let your fear cause you to rush through what can be some of the most fun and exciting periods of your entire weightlifting journey. This includes the beginning of any activity. So if you find yourself defining your identity based on performances like I was, just be sure to take a moment and remember to accept yourself where you are first. When you've done that, things can truly start to become fun again in a way that feels impossible when we're focused outside. These three things are what really helped me to achieve this landmark, and there's already a couple of videos on this topic. Seek a Strength, for example, has pointed out the foundation of weightlifting is within three things: skill, strength, and long-term development. This is a pretty complex and individual process, so having a coach is instrumental to guiding you to make some sound decisions as you grow. If you're self-coaching, my biggest suggestion is to soon get a coach that you believe can help you avoid the trap of getting stuck in your own head and serve as a trustworthy guide along this journey. In my experience, there's a lot of great coaches within the sport of weightlifting. Maybe I'm biased, but the demands of weightlifting are pretty strict, so it's hard to fake it or get lucky or make it all about ego. So I think with a bit of effort, you can find a really great coach that can bring out your best qualities consistently.